A massive ongoing Chinese hack of telecom companies that's possibly intercepting phone calls and text messages in the U.S. right now, leading to an unprecedented FBI warning to consumers. The head of Homeland Security calling the threat, in his words, very, very serious.
It's a very sophisticated hack. I can't speak publicly to how it occurred, but the telecom providers are focused intensely on it.
Officials from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, and the FBI say Americans need to protect what they say on their phones with encryption. Translation, if you're an iPhone user texting someone on an Android, there's a good chance your messages are unprotected from hackers. The workaround, using end-to-end encryption apps like Signal or WhatsApp. The hack, dubbed Salt Typhoon by Microsoft, the FBI calling it an espionage campaign.
This is the most persistent campaign the United States has ever seen, from an advanced hacking crew to break in, and it was a matter of time, really.
The FBI saying China was possibly listening in on calls from Senator Chuck Schumer's office and both the Trump and Harris campaigns. The Chinese government denied the accusation.
Phone calls were tapped, text messages were read, voicemails were read, as well as call records.
Verizon said when the hack was revealed, it is, quote, committed to assisting law enforcement in this investigation. AT&T telling NBC News it will, quote, continue to comply with our obligations to notify affected parties. But most people who had call metadata hacked may not even know it, because the feds and their phone provider haven't told them, according to government and telecom sources. CISA says senior government officials are among the highly targeted that should assume their communications are at risk of interception. But the FBI warning suggests everyday citizens could be exposed too. The advice is to be aware of when your messages and your calls are safe and when they're not.
When you send an encrypted message to me or vice versa, it goes to the telecom, but it's just gibberish. So they'll see that something was sent maybe, but they won't be able to read it.
Using Signal or WhatsApp offers that protection. Same with iPhone to iPhone messages and Android to Android messages. But when you're messaging between different types of phones, encrypting is now recommended.
If we all use encrypted apps, does that mean that we're totally good from future hacks of perhaps the scale of the Chinese one?
As it stands right now, your messages are believed to be safe, according to every cryptographer I've ever spoken with.
Brian Cheung joining us now. I mean, believed to be safe, honestly, is not necessarily a vote of confidence in all of this, but one of the other kind of outliers here is actually the telecom equipment. It's pretty old.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is just cell towers and lines. You can imagine that those would be very vulnerable points for advanced hackers to be able to get into the system. Now, we're not talking about 5G towers. We're just talking about, again, kind of that legacy infrastructure that still exists. So barring upgrading all of that, well, there's vulnerabilities will always be there. And I think that's why the FBI and government officials decided to underscore, hey, you know what, maybe people should start to use this encrypted technology, which is pretty remarkable because if we take a step back, in the past, the FBI has kind of not wanted to have to get through encrypted messages if they're trying to subpoena, they're trying to investigate something. Yeah. So it's kind of remarkable that the FBI is saying actually use this encrypted technology that in some cases might add an extra step for them if they were trying to do an investigation. So that's kind of an interesting
We literally
too.
Should just be using Signal and WhatsApp to be texting with one another.
Well, again, iMessage is okay if you're doing iMessage to iMessage. Same thing with Android to Android. But if you're going Android to iPhone, if the iPhone is not upgraded to the most recent OS, you might have that vulnerability there.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.